So this was the real love story that Diana and Charles tried to sell us, but that story was fake. And that is what is so compelling about this. Guys, you have to understand that Netflix is very, very smart. It's a business. Yes, a lot of this stuff, these are tactics that are used to sell you. Now, before I talked about storytelling, I'm going to talk about a marketing tactic that they're using with this whole documentary. And that is Netflix rollout strategy. Now, we know that they signed this deal in 2020, 2 years ago. It was about $100 million approximately. And it took them 2 years to put this together. I make documentaries. I could put this documentary together in a month, max. All right. They sat down, they shot it really nice. All that. Okay. Give them 6 months. Put this together. It doesn't take that long. This documentary has been ready since forever. But they had a strategy. They, like I said in another video I posted, they had to roll this out in the right time. And what was the time that they needed to roll it out for? Queen Elizabeth's death. But also they knew that, look, The Crown season, are we on season 4 or 5? I think it's season 5 now. If you guys have watched season 5 of The Crown, they go into depths about Diana and Charles's divorce. And it was, and that came out about a month ago. A couple weeks ago, actually. That came out a couple weeks ago because they knew that the audience, us, are going to binge watch that, get the backstory of Diana and Charles, how they got divorced, why that marriage was awful, why Diana suffered in that marriage, how that love story was traumatic. For me, this is even more heightened because I binge watched season 4 and 5 all together in one go. So I saw the beginning of the love story with Diana and Charles all the way to the end. And then 2 weeks later or a week later, I watched Meghan and Harry. Talk about context. So this rollout strategy, they put The Crown in mind, and we saw the pre and the post. And so it's all fresh in our minds why Diana's love story was tragic and how she got duped into a terrible marriage. But all these questions about Diana were up for grabs then. Diana was an opportunist, they made it seem like in that story. Mildly though, an opportunist. Why did she choose to marry him? You know, why did she, even though he treated her bad, she still wanted to stay in the marriage. She didn't want to let him go. Even though she was cheating on him and doing all sorts, she didn't want to let him go. That was the narrative they pushed. And to me, The Crown, I just feel, when I watch The Crown, to me, that's not Diana's truth. To me, it's so clear that they wanted to, I'll say this, they wanted to showcase Charles's point of view a little bit more than Diana's point of view, if you ask me. I thought that it was a little too fair to Charles in that. And the way they depicted Diana, I just feel like if she was alive, they wouldn't have done her like that. But all in all, because those of us that grew up in the UK or just understand the story of Diana, you're going to change my mind on how I feel about Diana and her death and the tragic story of her. So Harry, in this story, after watching his mother's experience and her hardships and all that she went through, watching him be like his mother. Let's remember the Panorama interview that Diana did where she exposed Charles and the royal family. Isn't that the exact same thing that Harry is doing? Why would you not think that the son of that woman would do the exact same thing? Everything about this documentary screams Diana's son. But I digressed because really what I want to say here is Netflix rollout strategy was superb because they wanted to tell a story in their marketing. They wanted us, first of all, let's watch The Crown. Now let's watch Harry and Meghan so they could win us over with Harry and Meghan. So chances are, if you did watch The Crown, you're probably leaning towards Harry and Meghan. If you watch the latest season of The Crown, just before you watch this, you're probably understanding a little bit more of Harry's perspective and the importance of this love story. The love story that we never got to see with Charles and Diana, that was so tragically lost with Charles and Diana. We see it happening with Harry and Meghan, but unfortunately, they have these new hurdles to overcome in their love story. And their love story with Charles, the irony is with Diana and Prince Charles, their turmoil was within their marriage. And it wasn't about the outside, but it was about the inside of the marriage and keeping up appearances. With Meghan and Harry, it's the opposite. The turmoil that they face is from the outside. The marriage itself, well, seemingly, it's quite, natural. I'm not even going to call it perfect, but it just seems like a natural, true love. And the irony is that you would think that people would want to see them together in love, because that is what Charles fought for. That is what Charles wanted deep down, to be with the woman he loved, and he got to be with her in the end. And that is probably why he let his children marry whoever they wanted to marry, marrying non-British aristocrats. He let his children do that. But unfortunately, in Harry's case, well, Meghan is not just a non-British aristocrat. There's a lot more to it. One thing I will say about the dangers of showing your love story to the world, and we've seen this with reality TV, is that stuff comes tumbling down. So be careful trying to convince the world that you're in a perfect relationship and you're perfect for each other, because we might just hold you to it. And when everybody in the world, and they said this in the documentary, they had to find things about each other, discover things about each other from tabloids. And it's clear to us from the way it sounds that they are very aware and they're very cognizant of what's going on in the tabloids world, what's going on with internet trolls. So it just sounds as though we, the public, have a lot of influence on their marriage. Now, this is problematic to me. This is problematic to me because what that tells me is trolls are going to have opinions on this documentary, and hopefully they can keep their love solid from within and not allow the world break up their union.